We would once again like to welcome you to the class of 2011's graduation. This is a very special moment for all of us. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, friends, and especially the graduating class of 2011.
We have been through a lot over the past 4 years, but class of 2011. We have finally made it to the end of our high school careers. 4 years we have fought with the dress code, we fought to keep up with the work, and we even fought to stay awake in class. But every student here today has paved their own road to success.
And speaking of success, the class of 2011 was one of the most successful classes in City High's history. Our class has received many Microsoft Office Specialist certifications. We have 419 micro certifications with 41 masters. And our class has big plans after today as well, with 86% of us going on to 2 or 4-year colleges and universities, and 14% of us joining the military or workforce. And the class of 2011 has acquired at least $500,000 in academic scholarships. And we are the largest graduating class with 110 graduates.
But even with all the success that our class has had, we have overcome many obstacles to get us here today. Typical of City High's unorthodox style of schooling, we do not have a class style Victorian who will come up here and reiterate the same speeches and same ideals that every other graduation has. Instead, our graduation ceremony will be led by students who came up in their free time and had the bravery to come and speak what they felt they needed to speak. They will talk about the representation that our class had molded into adults.
Please join us in welcoming our first speaker this morning, Chris Good. And he will share his experiences of how City High grew him up into a man.
Good morning, everyone. 4 years ago, my mother and father made the decision to send me to City High. There was no consulting with me to see whether this was the school of my choice, or even if I had heard about it. Now, that wasn't what they were concerned about. The only thing my parents wanted from me was to get a good education and go to a school where they knew I would be safe. Of course, I didn't agree with their choice. Now, I remember the first day of 9th grade. I felt so uncomfortable wearing these dress clothes at school. I was more of a Levi's, Nikes, and t-shirt type of guy. The whole environment of the school was what me and my friends would call lame. Now remind you, I was coming fresh out of Pittsburgh Public Schools, where almost 70% of the students were African American. When I got to City High, the diversity I saw would be unheard of at my last school. The first week seemed like it would never end, from the name tags to the teachers constantly reminding me to tuck in my shirt. After that first week, I wanted to transfer, but of course my mother and father, who had wanted that good education for me, told me to stick it out. In 9th grade, I met new friends, and I had to get used to the long hours. The cafeteria was the place where most of our fun took place. Now let's fast forward to 10th grade. I felt more comfortable at City High. The teachers weren't that bad. And I now had a close group of friends that I hadn't gotten into any real trouble with. But the lunches were still bad, you know? I felt as if school was getting kind of easy, like I could just coast by getting B's and a couple of C's. Plus, it's not like I was failing. I remember going to the YMCA after school almost every day with my boys. At that point in my life, it seemed like girls, basketball, and my friends were my only concerns. School seemed almost secondary to me. However, those teachers that seemed to be on my good side were now badgering me about papers that needed to be turned in or late math homework that was overdue. I still had that mentality of, oh well, I see isn't failing, I'll be okay. I had this idea that transferring to a Pittsburgh Public School would make my life so much easier. But my mom and dad thought otherwise. They wanted a good education for me and told me once again to stick it out. At the end of 10th grade, I felt as if I can get through high school easily without much effort. That philosophy will soon be tested. Now in 11th grade, with some saying being the most important year of a high school student's life, I started back to getting those B's and C's which I was familiar with. Now I remember the beginning of 11th grade year, not because of any school-related thing, but because my grandma had to get surgery. Now with that on my mind, I let myself slip in a couple of honors classes that I took. I only took those classes because of the teachers who thought I needed to be challenged. That idea of extra work wasn't what I wanted at all. Heck, I see in honor classes wasn't that bad. Being an underachieving kid that I was at that time, I still didn't want all that extra work. So I dropped the honors classes and kept the math honors only because I missed the deadline date to drop out, and I had no other choice. Then a phone call from my parents started, and that's never good. My advisor, Mr. Jenkins, will always tell me about how it's harder in the real world being a black man and making good money if you don't have a proper education. It wasn't that I didn't understand the work, it was just that I was plain old lazy. 11th grade would be the toughest year for me so far. My mom, who had been working at the same job for almost 20 years, was laid off. I knew it wasn't the end of the world, but that type of devastation of her losing her job shifted how I viewed things for a period of time. I started to cut up in school. Teachers were getting fed up with my actions, knowing that I was a better student than what I was acting like. So my advisor, Dr. Wertheimer and Mrs. Zinga, had a meeting with me and my dad. I didn't think much of that meeting at first. I knew they would tell him that I was acting up a little and my grades weren't what they could be. I was right what we had talked about, but this was a huge understatement on what actually happened that day. It was like I was being jumped by my advisor, Wertheimer, and Zinga. And none of the teachers came in the office that day with good things to say about me. My dad, who was sitting next to me, was emotionally overtaken by the fact that I was going to school and cutting up and not doing what I needed to get done to get the good grades and a good education that he had wanted from me. Looking at that disappointment in my father's eyes was a shock that finally made something click. My father's a man who rarely shows his emotions, and here he was devastated that I was going to school and not doing what I needed to do to get done. That was the moment in my life where I knew I had to get together. I always wanted to be the one who made a success of his life. And I knew that the colleges wouldn't accept me, the colleges I wanted to go to wouldn't accept me with the grades that I had at that time. My teachers and I both knew that I wasn't living up to my potential. So after that meeting, I spent more time with my work and less with my friends. It was a sacrifice that many people with my age wouldn't have made. A lot of kids my age would rather not try to succeed in life because of the thoughts of their peers. I didn't want to be like the rest. I wanted to make my family, my friends, and my teachers proud of me. And from that day on in 11th grade, I haven't received a C grade in any of my classes, including workforce, all A's and B's. In 9th grade, I had a main group of friends. It was 5 of us, all black males, all equally smart kids. After 9th grade, we all remained. After 10th grade, only 4 of us remained. And after 11th grade, only 2 of us remained. Now, I'm not saying those who left made any bad decisions because we're our own people. But what I'm saying, though, is that now I don't say City High as being lame, and I don't always look forward to wearing those Levi's and Nikes all the time. City High has molded me into a young black male that is ready for the real world and real success. And I cannot take all the credit for my recent success in the classroom, which has led me to earn a scholarship to Robert Morris University. First, I would like to thank God. Then I would also like to thank God for blessing me. Then I would also like to thank God for blessing me with such great friends, family, and friends that want to see me do so well in school. I would also like to thank the administrators at this school for creating such a professional work environment that I wouldn't get out of another high school. I would like to thank the teachers for not just showing up to work, but showing up to teach and to care about the future of their students. I would also like to thank my internship mentor, Tony Patron, and I would also like to thank my family. And finally, I would like to thank my mother and my father, Janice Barnett and Kenneth Good. I want to thank them for caring about their son and wanting me to have the best education that I could get. I wish that I could have seen what this school had in store for me since day one. But like a wise man once told me, there comes a point in your life where something clicks and you have a shock of reality and you have to change. That shock of reality was the look in my father's eyes. And finally, I would like to say to anyone who is in this building today, that if you're going through anything and you think you just want to give up, don't. Stick it out like my parents told me, because I did and I made it and you can too. And I'd also like to say happy birthday to my father, because today is his birthday.